Well, hello from number 10 at Downing Street, where the UK government is today promising new protections for consumers. As part of his plan to tackle the cost of living crisis, Prime Minister Andy Burnham says his government will give British families what he describes as more room to breathe. And of course, the cost of living crisis is not just a UK story. Millions of people across Europe are reported to be struggling to make ends meet in the face of rent rises, inflation on food and transport, and of course, stagnating levels of pay. But here in the UK, the Prime Minister has drawn up a hit list of daily expenses and unscrupulous charging that he believes is causing people daily distress. Part of his plan is that from next January, people should find it easier to cancel unwanted subscriptions, while companies will have to make it much clearer when a contract is about to renew, particularly if the price is about to go up. In fact, the government says millions of people are currently caught out by what it calls subscription traps. Now, that includes customers who move from a free or discounted trial onto a full price contract, or who find themselves automatically renewed without realising that that has happened. Well, ministers say the changes could save consumers hundreds of millions of pounds a year. But the government is also targeting what it calls pretend prices, where retailers advertise supposedly huge discounts based on inflated or misleading previous prices. A consultation will begin this autumn on how these new rules should work. Consumer group Which says it has repeatedly exposed major brands using deals that are not what they appear to be, and has welcomed the government's new plans. But there is a political row over the timing of these announcements. Many of these measures were first announced by the previous government under Keir Starmer back in April. Well, that has led the Conservatives to accuse Burnham of simply reheating old announcements, with the Shadow Chancellor Mel Stride saying the Prime Minister has already run out of ideas. And there are calls also from the Liberal Democrats for the government to go even further, including tougher action against rogue traders and so-called shrinkflation, where products get smaller while the price stays the same. All of these measures are part of Andy Burnham's wider promise of what he calls everyday fixes to help with household costs. But the bigger test will come, of course, in the budget in October. The Chancellor, John Healey, has promised strong fiscal discipline, meaning the government will have limited room for expensive interventions. Well, earlier I spoke to the political commentator Peter Barnes for his take on the cost of living crisis. Let's just have a listen now to Peter's perspective.
Well, realistically, what the Prime Minister's rightly identified is that for most people, it's the ability to turn the lights on, getting to work, putting petrol in the car, the cost of the groceries. That's what's so important to so many people. And what he's doing is going out into the country so he can kind of dictate the narrative for the next general election. What we're seeing is that the Labour Party have not been able to actually lead on an issue. So now because he's got this popular bounce, the Burnham bounce as it's being called, he's now being able to really dictate the terms for the next general election, which many of us actually feel is going to be a lot sooner. I actually think it's going to be later on this year. When you actually look at most of the statistics, the people's take-home pay has gone down and down and down. The standard of living has declined year on year, probably since about 2010, 2011. So to say that it's not real is rather fantasy. What he really needs to do is come up with some credible policies to fix it, not just patch up the hole in the roof. He needs to fix the entire building, and that's what the Prime Minister has not been really able to convince people of just yet. So realistically, like I say, this is why he's out and about now doing his big cost of living tour, which is also costing the country a fortune at the time while he's doing it. But, you know, irony and the Prime Minister are never far apart.
So there's no doubt then that some of Mr. Burnham's changes could save consumers money. The political question, though, is whether it will be enough to allow people that breathing space the Prime Minister has promised. And crucially, how the country can move from economic respite to real long-term prosperity. From London, this is Guy Shone for A News.